Good afternoon, Facebook Live. Hope everybody's doing okay today. Still a little under the weather, but that's all right. Powering through. What are we talking about today? Well, it's the time of year that state of Texas agencies start thinking about. Actually, you already started thinking about it, but they really start putting down on paper a lot of the things that are going to go into their biennial strategic plan. We're required to do a strategic plan every 2 years, and then not long after the strategic plan is when we do our legislative budget request. It's referred to as an LAR. It's a legislative appropriations request. Well, the strat plan, as we call it in shorthand, basically is what are the long-term goals of the organization. Now, as the executive director of a state agency, I'm operations. Well, this is where I have to pull out my general manager hat and look more towards the long-term effectiveness and goals of the organization. And it's a good idea, obviously not just for state government. Every type of budget needs to figure out, okay, this is what we're doing today, this is what we're doing tomorrow, but where do we want to be a year, 2 years, 6 years, 10 years, on down the road. So the strategic plan is a big part of that. Now, it's sort of, we're not allowed to, as a state agency, we're not allowed to lobby. But in the strategic plan, sorry about that. In the strategic plan, that's where we can say, okay, as the regulator, as the entity that is overseeing the safety of Texans as it relates to my agency, which is chiropractic, this is what we think are the short-term and long-term goals, operations, etc., that we need to be looking at. And from there, the legislature, gets an idea, okay, this is what they think is going on. And sometimes you'll end up seeing bills filed as a result of it. Last time, 2 years ago in our strategic plan, I pointed out some weaknesses that we had discovered in our enforcement process. The way it works, basically, it used to work, is complaints come in, whether they're from a patient, family member, another doctor, someone else in the industry, someone out of the industry, whatever complaint comes in saying, hey, this chiropractor is not doing something right. We assign it to an investigator, and if it relates to scope of practice or anything related under the treatment or the quality of care, we would then assign it to somebody we would refer to as a standard of care doctor. Well, they all did good jobs, but they were inconsistent in that some reports, would be, in the opinion of our review committee, maybe not as specific or too lenient or too harsh, and they didn't have a consistent voice. So, and they weren't coming in consistent time frames. And as contractors, they would do them as they could, and a lot of them were very, very punctual. Others took a lot longer. Long story short, we needed some consistent quality control. So, came up with the idea of hiring a chiropractic director, and we ended up putting that in both our strategic plan and our legislative appropriations request. Now, we did get funding for it, so we did end up hiring it. The legislature didn't say specifically that the chiropractic board will hire a chiropractic director. So hopefully that'll end up in statute. But the short term is we got the funding. We hired a chiropractic director. We now have the only chiropractic director who's on paid staff of any chiropractic regulatory entity in the country. And I'm proud of that. And that would not have happened without the strategic planning process. So, how does that relate to you as someone who's not working at a state agency? Okay, a strategic plan can be very similar to a daily game plan. Both strategic plans and game planning are designed to achieve both specific and even non-specific goals. A business plan focuses on, business plan, strategic plan focuses on your long-term success, while a game plan is your day-to-day stuff. You got to be adaptable. You've got to be understanding that, things are going to happen both in the day-to-day operations, but also the long-term operations. I mean, remember, a few years ago, 4 years ago, we had just stepped into working from home and all of that because of COVID. And here we are 4 years later, and we still have a lot of people working, outside of the office. And frankly, it's because we found out that they were able to get their jobs done, and it's saving them money. And there was no reasonable reason for us to make everybody come back every day, so we're not making them come back every day. I've got people that come into the office every day. I've got some people that only come in once or twice a week. And as long as they're getting their work done and hitting their goals and getting those performance measures knocked out, as long as the work is good, It was a scene in Cheers. I don't know if you remember Cheers or not. I, of course do. Sam was talking to Norm. He said, "Norm, I'm thinking about adding food to the bar here. What do you think about that?" Norm thought a second. He said, "Well, is it going to change the price of beer?" And Sam said, "No, it shouldn't." And Norm said, "Well, then what do I care?" And I kind of have the same attitude. If they're getting their work done and they're happy and they're still busting their tail to protect the people of Texas like we're supposed to in a regulatory agency, then what do I care if they're coming in once a week or 5 days a week? They're getting the job done and they're working hard and they're happy about it. That's all I care about. So anyway, that was a long story and a long explanation. So as you can tell, I am feeling a little bit better, even though I'm still a little, But so I tended to get a little verbose there, so I apologize. But again, short-term, long-term, years, decades, however long in the future, game planning, shorter term, focus on a single event, single time frame, things like that. Broad frameworks versus game plans are more detailed, more task oriented, things like that. So both are essential. And you got to wear a lot of hats when you're doing them, especially if you're in a small organization. So y'all have a good one, and I will talk to you tomorrow.